For the past 4.5 decades, the Volkswagen Jetta has been a very solid choice if you were looking for a comfortable, sporty commuter car that happened to come from Germany. Now, back in 2018, Volkswagen introduced the all-new Mark 7 Jetta to the States, finally moving it to its MQB architecture and sharing a lot of componentry with the then-new Mark 7 Golf and GTI. Now, for 2025, the Volkswagen Jetta is getting yet another refresh, and as you can see from the exterior design, it's a little bit more significant versus what happened back in 2022. The GLI version that we're testing here is also the spiciest Jetta, offering a 2-liter turbo under the hood with 228 horsepower and the continued availability of a 6-speed manual transmission. So for those of you who are looking for a sporty yet comfortable commuter car that has a little bit more practicality and sophistication than some of its rivals, how does the latest version of the Volkswagen Jetta GLI stack up? Stay tuned to find out. Now, before we talk about the subtle exterior styling changes Volkswagen has made for 2025, I thought I'd pop the hood and remind you guys what's powering this thing. Now, I mentioned earlier, this is the spiciest version of the Jetta. All other models will have a 1.5-liter turbo 4. This, however, has the bigger 2-liter turbo that has been plopped out of the Mark 7 GTI. Now, if you guys are familiar with the Volkswagen engine group family, this is the company's EA888 2-liter turbocharged direct injection 4-cylinder that makes 228 horsepower, 258 pound-feet of torque. That's a little bit less power versus the 241 and 273 that you get in the GTI, but it's nice to see that this does have more power versus something like the Honda Civic Si or Hyundai Elantra N line or the Kia K4 GT line that's coming out very soon. It all goes out through a choice of either a 6-speed manual transmission like my test car or an optional 7-speed dual clutch automatic that is actually a no-charge option. The GLI continues to offer the manual versus the GTI and Golf R, which has discontinued the manual for 2025. All GLIs remain front-wheel drive with an electronic limited slip differential to help put that power down. Fuel economy is also pretty impressive at 26 in the city, 36 on the highway. That is recommended to run on regular. You have a 13.5-gallon fuel tank. You're looking at around 450 miles of range on a full tank, which is actually pretty good. I'm sorry, 400 miles, not 450 miles of range. Volkswagen doesn't claim a 0 to 60 time. We tested a 2022 almost 2.5 years ago, and that got 6.7 seconds. We'll try it again as we get this vehicle out on the road. It has a top speed of around 126 miles an hour. That is govern limited, not drag limited, and as this model sits, it weighs in at just over 3,200 pounds. The dual clutch will roughly add an extra 100 pounds to the weight, so this is one of the more lighter options in the segment, and it also has about 30 more horsepower than the Civic Si or the Elantra N line. But closing up that heavy hood, which as you guys saw was supported by a prop rod as opposed to struts, you can see the 2025 Jetta family got a more significant update this year from the front end especially, and it kind of reminds me of the Mark 7 GTI a little bit. My particular test car is painted in King's Red Metallic. That's an extra $455 extra. It pairs nicely with the black roof and the black package for an extra $650. You can see the headlights have been redesigned. They are a reflector style LED headlight with an LED daytime running light, LED turn signal. You have an LED light bar that goes across the grille and connects the two headlights together. You can see this opening is nice and functional. There's a GLI badge here. The grille is actually a little bit smaller than the pre-refresh model, which is interesting. Most cars get bigger grilles, whereas Volkswagen made it a smaller grille. You can see the honeycomb mesh insert down there where it exposes the intercooler. That's all functional air intake openings there. Looks pretty nice with some more non-functional openings here. It's not glossy black at the lower front splitter, it's just a flat black. But overall, let me know in the comment section below if you guys prefer the refreshed look on the 2025 or the 2024 model. I'm kind of on a wash. It's still instantly recognizable as a Jetta GLI, but I also think that this design is starting to look a little bit also ran. It's a little bit too conservative, especially when you look at some of the other competitors, which just have a little bit more design. This is a little bit too restrained. Now, moving around the side profile, the GLI or the Jetta is a bigger vehicle than most of its rivals with a 105.6-inch wheelbase and a 186.9-inch overall length. There was a time where that was the length of a mid-size car. The GLI is technically about an inch longer than the regular Jetta. It all has to do with the bumpers, the different front and rear fascias. You can see the wheels. My test car with the black package includes these gloss black 18-inch wheels on a 225 by 45 R18 Hankook Energy GT all-season tire. Brakes are actually pretty big. They're 13.4-inch rotors at the front, 11.8-inch rotors at the back, clamped down by a 4-piston caliper at the front. These are essentially the same brakes lifted out of the Mark 7 Golf R. So this is a really good braking system. You also get adaptive dampers, all-independent suspension that's standard on all GLIs because they only come as the Autobahn trim. For 2025. The baser versions have been discontinued. The width of the vehicle is the same as the regular Jetta. With the black package, you add black painted side mirrors. These are not power folding. You do have integrated turn signals. No 360 camera, however. There's also a standard panoramic sunroof, which is nice. It goes well with the black roof and this, bright red exterior color. It's about $1,000 extra for this color combination. Moving at the rear of the vehicle, again, silhouette is very conservative. It's boxy. I think it'll age really well. The design of the rear looks pretty much the same. The taillights have been updated. It is a full LED taillight design. You can see the turn signal, brake light, reverse light is all LED. There's this new LED light bar that almost connects the two taillight modules together with the GLI badge here. So that's really the only change that I'm seeing for 2025. I also love the fact that there's still a bright chrome tipped dual exhaust system with the honeycomb mesh rear bumper insert, which looks nice. A very subtle deck lid spoiler. But I just appreciate the fact that this is a very conservatively handsome design at the rear versus some of the boy racer looks you're going to find from some of its rivals. Now, looking at the cargo space, the GLI also has a pretty massive trunk for a four-door sedan. You can see it measures 14.8 cubic feet of cargo space. You can see there are hinges that do crush your cargo, but it is a very deep space that's nicely carpeted. The seats also fold down to give you 60/40 flexibility. And if I look underneath here, you can see Volkswagen does give you a temporary spare tire at least, so you don't have to deal with a fix-a-flat kit. Obviously, if you need more space, the GTI is a hatchback, but this does have a bigger trunk than some of its sedan rivals. So moving on to the interior of the 2025 Jetta GLI. Before we get inside, let me show you guys the key fob. You can see this is the current intelligent access fob that Volkswagen uses on most of their models. It's actually a really nice, sturdy feeling key. It feels like it has good heft. I like the metal trim as well with the chrome. There's a usual lock, unlock, and remote open for the trunk, in addition to the panic feature. This key fob is definitely a nice size. And it's standard on all versions of the GLI. Now, as I approach the door handle, you can see traditional door handle. Touch that button, that locks the door for you. No power folding mirrors. If you want to unlock the door, there's no sensor on the back of the handle. You have to touch the button again, and that's what will unlock the door for you. Now, I hope you guys prefer a black interior because the GLI only comes with this kind of two-tone gray black with the red contrast stitch. They actually call it Grigio with red stitch is what this interior is called. It's got the standard leather upholstery, obviously. These seats adjust in 10 different ways. On the driver's side with three-person memory, which is kind of nice, and these seats are also heated and ventilated. You can't even get ventilated seats on the Civic Si or the Elantra N, I believe. So, or the Subaru WRX. So it's one of the few vehicles in the class that offers ventilated seats, which is nice. The seats also have a nice, more aggressive bolster. The padding feels really good. These are one of the more comfortable seats you're going to find, and they look pretty nice. Although it would be nice if there was a GLI badge embossed on the actual head restraint. You can see the door panel material has a nice soft touch injection molded plastic, aluminum accented door handle, piano black plastic trim, more gray leather here, black leather with the contrast stitch. You have window controls, which are one touch all four, which is nice. No power folding mirrors, but the switch gear definitely feels high quality. Down here, this lower portion, it is hard touch plastic. You have the alloy sport pedals, which look good, but overall it makes a pretty good first impression when you open up the door. Now, stepping inside, you can see it's got that typical low sedan step-in height. As I shut the door, it has a really solid sounding thunk. Remember, this is built on the MQB architecture. Now, once you're inside the vehicle, you can see the start-stop button is located here by the shifter with the lovely 6-speed. Make sure it's in neutral. Put the clutch in. And this is not a hybrid or a mild hybrid, so it starts up with a traditional starter noise. There's the usual Volkswagen chime. And then all GLIs, because they're Autobahns, come with the fully digital Volkswagen digital cockpit display. That's 12.3 inches, I believe, or maybe it's 10.25 inches. I'm sorry, it's not fully 12.3 because it has the analog gauges for the temp and the fuel gauge. That is also slightly customizable. And then in the center stack, you can see they've updated the screen. It's still an 8-inch touchscreen with not their latest software. It includes wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but you can see it now has a tablet style display. Lots of piano black. Before pre-refresh, it was kind of more integrated into the dash. I don't mind the way this looks, but I would have liked to see Volkswagen get rid of the actual buttons on the side here, or just utilize more of this piano black, unused real estate, give us like a 10.25 inch display would have been better versus an 8-inch display. But hey, if you guys don't like big displays, it also has a proximity sensor. You're going to actually really much prefer this, so kind of keep that in mind. It's not bad. The system itself is pretty quick and snappy and responsive, but I've shown you guys like the newer 14, 15-inch displays you can see in some of the new Volkswagen products, or the 12.3-inch display in like the ID4. So kind of keep that in mind. The technology in this vehicle is a little dated. No heads-up display. As you can see, you have a soft touch injection molded plastic up here with the contrast, or no contrast stitching, it's faux stitching. This is the actual real leather with contrast stitching down in this lower portion here. I appreciate how there's a volume and a tuning knob over here. The steering wheel, as you can see, has the same touch sensitive buttons, which I don't love. It has a heated wheel, flat bottom design. The wheel itself offers a good range of adjustability, so you can kind of get comfortable and get a good driving position. The horn, it sounds pretty decent, not puny like what you're going to hear in the Honda Civic Si. There's an upgraded Beats audio system standard that sounds pretty good if you guys get tired of listening to the engine, which, by the way, really low limiter, but the engine has a pretty nice throaty synthesized sound, which we'll talk about during the driving scene later on. Obviously down here you can see another update. There's now a digital electronic climate control system. So this is a dual zone, but the old hard buttons that you got in the pre-refresh have been replaced with these capacitive touch sensitive buttons, which isn't necessarily an upgrade for some people, but it definitely looks a little bit more modern. Don't love the glossy piano black. The vents, as you can see, very traditional looking. Down here there's a wireless phone charging pad, electronic parking brake. Your drive mode selector is here. You can change between sport, custom, eco, comfort, and then normal. It also changes the way the gauge display looks with the color. Red means sport, obviously, and then most of the other ones are going to be in a either blue or this kind of yellowy orange two-tone effect for the comfort setting. So again, gauges definitely look more modern and nice. Now the shifter has definitely a longer throw versus the last Subaru WRX or Mazda manual or Honda Civic Si. This feels more similar to the Hyundai Elantra N line. Push down and go this way to go into reverse. You can see there's your backup camera. It has trajectory. Actually, no, it doesn't have trajectory. It just has distance markers. So it's a little bit of a rudimentary backup camera. The quality and resolution also is pretty terrible. So that kind of shows you that Volkswagen could have updated that. There is built-in embedded GPS, but it's not activated in my test car, or it's probably part of a dealer accessory. There is, again, wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. I'm using my phone to connect right now, so it's not letting me actually connect while continuing to film. So kind of keep that in mind. The screen itself, as you can see, some of you may prefer it. I think it's a little bit too small. Over here in the center console area, a lot of hard plastic. So this is kind of where Volkswagen used to use higher quality plastics here. A lot of empty buttons as well. Other markets will offer, more features. You can see there's 2 USB-C charging ports there. Padded center console area here. This lid doesn't adjust or anything. It also doesn't even latch, but it does close to reveal another USB port and decent storage in there, which is nice. More cup holder storage over here. The seats, like I mentioned, pretty comfortable padding. They have a little bit more aggressive bolstering. It just could use a GLI badge in the actual seat headrest, which would be nice. Open up the glove box. You can see it's huge. It's damped, but not lined with felt. Offers a lot of additional storage, which is great. The mirror here is not auto dimming. Actually, wait, no, I lied. It is auto dimming, but no digital camera review mirror. There's also incandescent lighting here for the map lighting and additional ambient lighting throughout the interior, which is nice that it's there, but it's not multicolor changing ambient lighting. So overall, the interior quality is, I'd say, average. Build quality, however, is good. Not a single squeak or rattle in this car, which is great. Visibility is also fine. But overall, as you can see, if you want better tech, be sure to check out a GTI because it has their latest software, especially for 2025. But let's go ahead and hop into the backseat area of the GLI. This is where it has more space versus some of its rivals. With its longer wheelbase and overall length, Volkswagen says you have around 37.5 inches of legroom back here. That's actually a really good amount of space. Sadly, material quality back here is hard touch plastic, so it's downgraded versus the front, but at least it's still slightly padded here. Hard area here, where in the front it has leather. Hard touch down here, so definitely some cheaper materials in the back seat area. As I get back here, you can see this is pretty much where I'd have the front seat to drive as I shut the door. The door itself has a decently solid sounding thunk, good legroom space, good foot space as well. I can kind of get back here and easily cross my legs. There is sadly no rear seat air vents, no USB-C charging ports as well, which is disappointing. You have a big hump here for the center passenger, one storage pocket over here, and then you can see the headrest. They don't adjust on the outboard positions, they do in the middle, and you do have a center armrest here that folds down, gives you 2 cup holders. Headroom space is actually pretty okay for me. I have maybe like 1.5 inches of additional clearance. That sunroof does take up a little bit of space. but as you can see, it doesn't come back into the backseat area. This also has a manual retractable shade. It also opens up to vent air, which is nice. So overall, the backseat is certainly more spacious versus some of its rivals, but for an Autobahn trim, you can really see Volkswagen did cheap out. So just keep that in mind. The Jetta is for the American market, and they did decontent this vehicle to get the price point down. So it's been about 2.5 years since I've shown you guys a full review on the Volkswagen Jetta GLI. It's really great to see Volkswagen is keeping the GLI around, because remember, this model is more a specific North American only vehicle. Even though the GTI and Golf R loses its manual transmission for 2025, the Jetta GLI keeps that 6-speed manual transmission. Obviously, if you want quicker acceleration, more convenience, a little bit better performance, you're going to want to go for the 7-speed dual clutch, but this model here with the 6-speed manual only comes in front-wheel drive. It has the 228 horsepower version of Volkswagen's EA AAA 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder. This engine with the 6-speed manual is definitely the enthusiast choice. VW says about 40% of GLI customers choose the manual. So North American market actually is what's responsible for keeping the manual alive in the GLI, because this is a North American specific vehicle. It is a wonderful vehicle, just getting right into it. It feels really sporty, it feels really refined, it feels more grown up than a lot of the other vehicles in this segment, especially the Autobahn trim with its adaptive dampers. It just makes this vehicle feel like it's a lot easier and just more comfortable to drive on a daily basis. Now, the transmission is definitely a little bit longer in terms of the throws. I much prefer the 6-speed in the Civic Si in terms of just how much how much shorter the ratios feel, especially when you're going through the gates. The engine itself, however, makes a really great sound. I actually love the way the sound is when you put your foot down. The turbo doesn't really have much in terms of lag, but it has that fake sound that's kind of coming in through the cabin. It feels really good. That rattle that you're hearing is actually coming from my race box. It's not the actual vehicle. The vehicle feels really solid with the adaptive dampers. In sport mode, it actually doesn't feel quite as heavy or it doesn't feel quite as stiff as some other vehicles like the Subaru WRX, the Hyundai Elantra N are definitely going to feel a lot stiffer than this vehicle. Now, let's go ahead and try a 0 to 60 test. Now, this run here is a little more slightly uphill. I think I got 6.8 seconds the last time I 0 to 60 tested this vehicle. It's front-wheel drive, so it's a little bit of a challenge to launch, but we'll try it here. A little bit of wheel hop there. Ooh. Wow, 6.5 seconds. Now, what's lovely about the GLI is you can actually hit 60 miles an hour in second gear, versus, and if you look at the Honda Civic Si, it requires a shift to third. So 6.5 there with it more going slightly uphill is actually pretty impressive. Now, this vehicle is front-wheel drive. It offers 258 pound-feet of torque. It does feel like it has trouble putting the power down at times. It would help if Volkswagen offered summer tires on this vehicle. We're rolling on all seasons, but that's an easy change. You can easily go to the aftermarket and get you a set of summer tires, which if you guys prefer that, put my foot down here. Oh, this thing feels fast. It actually feels quicker than the numbers would suggest, and that's what I really appreciate about the GLI is this car punches above its weight on paper. In the real world, it's got a really crisp steering that's quick, sharp, and direct. The suspension also stays pretty buttoned down. The throttle response in this vehicle is also solid. I like how when I put my foot down, there isn't really much in terms of lag. You just hear that induction howl, which is synthesized. The spacing and gearing of the 6-speed manual allows the engine to kind of stay in the meat of the power band. Third gear is a very flexible gear ratio. I love how you can hit 60 in second, but this thing's just sporty. It feels fun to drive. It feels nimble. It feels lightweight. It feels like it can handle extremely well. Your favorite back row, this thing will attack it all day long, but you can put it into normal or comfort and it will basically, coddle you in comfort, which is nice. I mean, that's kind of the whole point of buying a GLI or a GTI, is this is a more family-friendly daily driver, but it still doesn't give up much in terms of fun. Now, putting my foot down here, it actually will chirp into second quite nicely, which I appreciate, but I'm happy. I mean, obviously you could go with the dual clutch transmission, but the manual is kind of the way to go if you're an enthusiast. Again, you can't get the manual in the GTI anymore, so that makes it a kind of a nice sell. And the fact that this is significantly cheaper than a GTI Autobahn should also kind of have you checking out the Jetta as well. It's just a really great car to drive if you're an enthusiast and you want something that's a little bit more unique and a little bit more fun. But let's go ahead and try a 0 to 60 run here. This is with it on more level ground. We'll try the same kind of 4,000 clutch dump. Let's try that again. That was a little too much throttle. .09 seconds there, so very impressive. That's with it more on level ground. 6.09 seconds, I'm actually pretty impressed. So if you get the launch right, which happens at about 4,000 RPM, but you don't want to let the clutch out too eagerly. You want to let it out about half the way, and that'll keep it from doing what had happened earlier. That's fun. This is where I love a good front wheel drive car with a manual transmission. Yes, it's not the enthusiast choice. I'd rather be in a rear wheel drive car, but this is kind of that urgency that I appreciate. This has way more power versus the Civic Si. The last one that I tested when I was out in Nashville, I believe, wasn't really the quickest. I got like in the 7-second range. So the GLI definitely delivers on that power, and it puts the power down pretty nicely when you get the launch right, but just requires a little bit of finesse. So very impressed, very happy with the overall performance. I just would like to see Volkswagen offer this with a active rev match function. That's something you have on the Honda Civic Si. Subaru WRX doesn't offer that either, but this is a really fun car to drive. So I'm happy to see that Volkswagen has kept that spirit alive with this GLI. Now, in terms of the fuel efficiency, this vehicle is rated at 26 in the city, 36 on the highway, which is actually really good considering it's a 2-liter engine. In my week's worth of testing, I averaged around 27 mpg in mostly mixed driving. On the highway, I got it up to around 34, which is excellent. This vehicle is rated to run on premium. It has a 13-gallon fuel tank. You're looking at around 400-ish miles of range on a full tank, which is pretty good, honestly, as well. So this transmission is actually the more fuel-efficient option according to the EPA, but it's just nice that this thing is also still pretty efficient when you don't need to drive it aggressively. If you want to just cruise along, it should get pretty decent fuel economy, which is important when you're buying a vehicle of this caliber. I mean, this is supposed to be a daily driver. You're going to be enjoying it, in day-to-day tasks, going to work, going on longer road trips. The ride quality is also pretty comfortable. Even in sport mode, it rides really nice. It's quiet in here aside from the synthesized engine noise. There's not really much in terms of road or wind noise. So these tires are pretty quiet, which I appreciate. Visibility is good out of the front, the side, the rear. And then these seats also hold you in place quite nicely. They're not as aggressively bolstered as like some of the Subaru WRX models that I've driven, but this is still pretty good. So yeah, I really appreciate this car. If you guys are dismissing the Jetta GLI because it's not a hatch, definitely don't do that. You're gonna save yourself a pretty penny by going with this model versus a GTI, and if you want a stick shift, this is really the only option left because, as you guys know, the death of the manual occurred in the Golf and the GTI, or the Golf R and the GTI for 2025. So with just over 47,000 units sold in the US last year, the Volkswagen Jetta did actually see a pretty healthy sales increase in America compared to the same time period in 2022. Obviously, at its peak, the Jetta used to sell at nearly 180,000 units a year. That was back in 2011. Clearly, times have changed. Volkswagen's best-selling model is now the Tiguan, but there's still a good space in Volkswagen's lineup for the Jetta because, as you guys know, this has always been the go-to mainstream, affordable, compact commuter car sedan from Germany. And for the updates that Volkswagen has made for 2025, while it doesn't exactly push the Jetta into class-leading territory, there's still plenty to like about this vehicle, especially if you're an enthusiast looking at the GLI. As you guys saw, 0 to 60 happens in just over 6 seconds when you get the launch right with the 6-speed manual. I suspect the dual clutch should be even quicker than that. That 2-liter turbo engine is still a gem. It sounds great. It has plenty of torque. It feels more powerful than its numbers would suggest, even though some competitors like the Elantra N offer a little bit more power, and the Subaru WRX. Those two vehicles, while the Elantra is the same price, the Subaru is considerably more if you actually equip it pretty similarly to the Jetta. The back seat is big. The infotainment system got, their latest, not really their latest software, but it got that floating tablet screen. It's an 8-inch display. It's a little bit small. Obviously, if you guys prefer a non-huge screen, check this one out because it has kind of a good amount of real estate for technology with the cooled seats, the pano sunroof. It's definitely got better features versus the Honda Civic Si and the Hyundai Elantra N. It just has a much more plain Jane conservative look, but if that's your vibe, this is definitely one that should still make it to the very top of your list because of that excellent 6-speed manual that you can still get, unlike the GTI. Now, if you're looking to put a GLI in your driveway, this is where the Jetta GLI has gone up in price versus the previous generation. That's mostly because Volkswagen has discontinued the lower trim levels of the GLI. It now only comes as the fully fully loaded Autobahn with a base price of $32,755. That definitely sounds like a lot, but it's only around $300 more expensive versus the 2024 GLI Autobahn. So that's actually kind of a bargain. Compared to a Civic Si, this is around $3,000 more, but you get more power, more technology, more luxury features, a better ride quality as well. It handles almost as well, and it's also quicker. Compared to the Elantra N, which starts at around $1,000 higher, which has more power, that vehicle is more of a serious sport compact. However, it is also less comfortable, less luxurious, and less sophisticated in terms of just as a daily driver. The Subaru WRX also starts at the same price, but to get it equipped similarly to the Jetta, you're gonna have to spend or go up to the limited trim, which starts at around 39 grand. This model here with the destination charge and the $1,000 for the paint charge and the black package options comes in at just over 35 grand. So 35 grand is actually a pretty good deal. Compare that to a 2024 GTI, which starts at 32,000, but we don't have pricing yet on the 2025 model. That has yet to be revealed as of this filming for the North American market. We've seen it in Europe already for a few months. A GTI Autobahn's around 40 grand. So Jetta or Volkswagen's is charging around 7 grand less for the Jetta GLI, which honestly is kind of a bargain compared to a GTI Autobahn. So if you guys are okay with the fact that this is not a hatchback, and it also doesn't have the same sporty pretensions, it's a little bit more soft and comfortable versus a GTI, you should definitely still put this one here at the very top of your list. But with all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the 2025 Volkswagen Jetta GLI with the manual. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.